Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, the Tour de France Stage 13 recap of 2022's edition from Le Bourg d'Oisans to Saint-Étienne. It's a 50-point stage in the sprint green jersey competition, 193 Ks, but it has a lot of just heavy, nasty climbs all day. 2Ks 8%, 5Ks 7%, 2Ks 7%, 7.5Ks 5%, before a sort of long drag to 1500 meters, 5% for a downhill tailwind finish, just an uphill drag, just a nasty heavy down the legs. It's just not a day you want to be chasing alone in 35 degrees in some of these valleys, just nasty. And we have for this sort of stage, I mean, I saw in the markets before Philipsen and Van Aert, the favorites, but Benji, me and you yesterday, I was like, oh, have I missed something? Because yesterday on the pod, me and you, we literally didn't discuss the possibility of a sprint. I thought this was so clearly a breakaway stage, but some directors obviously thought so, and some didn't. That's what we saw at the start of this stage.
Yes, certainly. But I think that we've actually seen attempts at the start of today's stage from a lot of the teams that eventually also started chasing. So initially, Ganna Jorgensen and Stefan Küng started forming a three-man group that stayed ahead for a bit because Ganna Infinite Relay at the front of that group and basically kept that group like 20 seconds to 40 seconds, 50 seconds ahead of the peloton. And we noticed a large group form, a very large group to the point where it was like, I think, roughly 15 riders extra, which did not make it across, but included the likes of Marc Soler, which is an odd one for me. I didn't know why, but he was in there. We had the likes of Conrad together with Polid, Cataneo and Honoré, for example, for Quickstep. So that team's up there. Notably, also Trequit, Mollema, and Peterson. We've got the likes of Schultz for Bike Exchange and also Andreas Kroon for Lotto. So those two teams attempting to be in the breakaway, but that group fails. Why? Because Alpecen's like, nah, today is going to be a sprint. They put their entire team at the front, a gap of 25 seconds. They basically empty every single one of their riders to the point that Philipsen sprints the gap down in the last 50-meter gap. He sprints it down to that group, closes the gap, and then they miss the next breakaway as well, Alpecin. So I don't know.
They don't get it. They don't get it. So you see them chasing, and they do have to chase if you want to sprint. You have to at that point. But you're like, how did this happen? How did a break like this go? Why is it so hard for the breaks to form on these stages in the tour so far? And I'll try and show it in the video tonight. But they lack the subtlety of a Tim de Klerk where they just chase everything. They will say 3 men will go, a Marco Haller and Zimmerman maybe, and a Kamil Gradek. 3 of them will go. One more rider will try and bridge, and there'll be a chain out, and the gap is still not gone out yet, and they won't let his wheel go and start blocking. And instead of having... They ride the start of the stages as if it's possible to stop any break forming. And what ends up happening is they get exhausted, and then they cannot control when huge turbo engines try and get in the brake, and then you have an uncontrollable brake. Yeah, so that's what they're making the mistake of.
Another mistake, in my opinion, is that in this scenario, they are catching that group of 15, and then another group gets away with the likes of Simmons that attacks on the left side of the road with Pedersen in the wheel, all trying to bridge to that Ganna, Jorgensen, and Küng three-man group still up the road. Wright follows, Hull follows, Owain Dool tries to follow, but I'm actually not sure if he made it to the breakaway or not. He didn't? Well, oops. But Alpecin once again misses that breakaway, and then they don't make the click in their head that there were so many teams initially that tried to be in the breakaway that think that is going to be a breakaway stage, that are not going to be riding for their sprinter mainly, and they are not in that next group either.
One of them's Trek.
Yeah,
who you'd expect to help. Their sprint is now up the road. So, there's one ally out the door. Jumbo.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be relying on Jumbo to pace today. Why would they? And so your allies are Lotto, Quickstep, and
Bike
Bike
exchange.
Exchange. If I was the Lotto DS, like I'll do the read first, Benji, because I want to discuss this. It's really the main discussion point of the day. But the Tour de France Femme, which we will be doing a preview for in the lead up to the race dropping next week. The race kicks off on the 24th of July. The Tour de France Femme is avec Zwift. Zwift are the title sponsor of the race. So if you're crying out for more racing, Lorena Wiebes actually won in, I think, the Baloise Tour today in a sprint. She's in good form leading up to that first sprint stage. Tour de France Femme avec Zwift kicks off next Sunday. And so it's back to back with the men's race before the men's race on that stage. And Zwift and ourselves are calling on all cycling fans to watch the Femme. Me and Benji will be in Paris to bring you the coverage live. We'll be podding on the ground. So make sure you're tuning into the recaps from the 24th to the 31st of July to watch the Femme. I'll also have full highlights, as I have for the men's race, continuing for the women's race throughout the whole race on the Lanterne Rouge YouTube channel. So full coverage here as if it was the men's race across all our platforms, including some climb estimations, which will be sort of new stuff on the website as well. So yeah, just thought we'd let you know that. Thanks to Zwift, as always, for supporting the show as our presenting partner as well. But Lotto, Benji, and Bike Exchange, we have two options. Durbridge is out with COVID, so that's a huge engine out for Bike Exchange. Ewan's climbing looks terrible. He was dropping before Jakobsen and Groenewegen in all the climbs in the last 2 days. We have Krohn, Wellens, Gilbert. 3 really good riders for this parcours to be in a break. Bike Exchange have Matthews, Auer, Grundle Janssen type riders as well. Mezgec. Why? Like, surely it's so risky unless you have ironclad guarantees from Jumbo that they'll help you pace to go for a sprint today and not try and get guys in the breakaway.
In the scenario of Bike Exchange and Lotto, they've got the one excuse that they both tried with one rider, Krohn and Schultz, but I feel like they should try with more at the start of this kind of stage to get in the breakaway, to get riders up there in the same way that Peterson and Mollema and Simmons did for Trek, because we've been saying for the last 1.5 years, whenever Bex was doing this stuff, as in the not going in breakaway with Matthews and eventually not winning the stage from the peloton with their team as they start pacing and they can't catch the eventual breakaway. It's happened a lot last year, Vuelta, for example. But we've said that so much about Bike Exchange the last year and a half, and it seems like Trek decided to go for that today. They decided to put Peterson together with Simmons in the attack. I feel like it was actually not on purpose. Peterson was trying and failed his attack and then was kind of giving up. And then Simmons says to him, let's try it one more time, mate.
Ultimate tug, buddy.
Exactly. They went for it and they got themselves on the breakaway. So that's the difference here, the different scenarios. Trek uses that strategy of getting their versatile sprinter with an extra rider in the breakaway. That rider could be important because if you've got a sprinter in the breakaway, he's going to get attacked by rouleurs or by random other riders in that breakaway. And if you've got an extra rider to control, or at least make sure the breakaway starts attacking later by having that rider up there until you get into the last 20K, then your sprinter won't have to react that instantly and that early in the stage. He won't have to respond to the Mohoric-like attacks that Wout van Aert and Van der Poel had to respond to last year on stage 7, for example. Does that make sense?
And Kirsch is out. Mollema, so Sturven's not looking good. So who are you going to have pull all day? And I think it might have been a decision on the road that the DS was like, holy shit, Jorgensen, Kung, Ganna, we can chase that all day. Or Quinn, big effort now, get across. So that's what happened. And so we had the most insane Rouleur breakaway I've ever seen for a stage like this. Kung, Ganna, Fred Wright, who's on insane form, Hugo Uhl, Pedersen, Simmons, Matteo Jorgensen, who's 190 centimeters plus, big engine too on Movistar. And we have Alpecin and Lotto with 2 men each, rotating turns. And here's where I don't mind, like, okay, Bex missed the break. Fine, I get it. You missed the break. Why are they not helping those guys pace? If you do not have the gap after that climb against this break, super tight, like 20 seconds, or less, or caught. If you do not have the brake so tight, you are never winning, because this is what happens on these rolling parkour. You can't just drill it. They have to wait they have to do the pace the sprinters can do on the climbs. And so they have to go slow, and they lose the brake on all these climbs, and they have to take it back again. And yet the breakers got guys who are stronger than their rouleurs. So Bike Exchange didn't help early. I didn't understand it, to be honest. Like, it made
Yeah.
no sense. And yeah, that's the real flaw in how they approach this stage.
Exactly. And when it comes to the control from the peloton, it got intriguing when Alpecin basically kept controlling initially. We had Lotto join, and those two teams were the ones that were keeping the gap to the front at around 150 to 2 minutes for the first half of the race. Started expanding a bit towards the end, but we'll get to that later. And when we see Gilbert pulling early on in the stage, like just when the break was gone, Luke Rowe like comes past him and says, like, "You think you're gonna catch that, mate?" Like twice. He was
Yeah.
straight up trolling Gilbert at the front of the peloton. I love that. You straight up heard it on the comms and so forth. So yeah, he's kind of right. Like, Rowe's right on that, and they are now pacing in the peloton for the entire stage. And the intriguing aspect of it is that something happened with about 70k to go in the race that completely changed the situation as well for the peloton. Perhaps the peloton might have had a better chance if this extra team was pacing. Lotto Soudal, they were pacing initially, but eventually Ewan ended up crashing in a weird way. Is it a weird way? It's a simple way,
I haven't
but
really seen the overhead. I only saw the front
basically,
on.
basically the Lotto team was at the front of the peloton. They go into a 90-degree left corner, and I think the second Lotto rider, I think it's Gilbert, I'm not 100% certain, so don't start roasting the guy, takes the corner wide, which causes the next rider to also take it wide while Ewan is steering in. And Ewan straight up rides into the back wheel of the rider ahead of him as a consequence. And yeah, that's how Ewan goes down. I think the next rider in row also goes down. So two Lotto Soudal riders on the road. They're now all waiting by the side of the road. Alpecin's unhappy because they've got a team less controlling in the peloton. Gab goes out a tiny bit. And that's an interesting situation following up because Alpecin wants Ewan up there because they want Lotto there. And that's where it became very intriguing at the back of the peloton because not only was the Lotto car trying to get Caleb Ewan back to the peloton, the Alpecin car was trying to get Caleb Ewan back to the peloton to the point where the Alpecin car was pulling Ewan, like in draft, to the peloton, while the Lotto car was behind, according to French TV, trying to make sure that the commissaire motorbike could not pass them to go to the Alpecin car to tell them that they cannot drive Caleb Ewan. So they were straight up collaborating against the commissaire to make sure Caleb Ewan could get to the peloton. I love that from a sneaky perspective. Eventually, Caleb Ewan joined the peloton again, and then he dropped again on the next climb. So,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
he gets
I don't
back,
think he's all right.
drops straight away on that climb. Quinn Simmons does a full gas effort on the climb. He takes out 30 seconds on the peloton from the breakaway, gaps at 2:30. They're all working well. He drops. Pedersen's now left alone. Suddenly, everyone stops. Alpecin give up. Lotto have given up because Ewan's off the back. Jacobsen's dropped. Nothing. Nothing. No one's pulling. GC teams at the front. And then the gap goes out to 3:30, and Bike Exchange appear at the front. Now, I know they couldn't pace the climb hard because they don't want to drop Groenewegen, but that's why you help pace earlier so the gap is
Yeah,
tighter on the flat sections. And at this point, it's like mathematically impossible to catch the
yeah,
break because the break is working well. The break is extremely strong. Jack Bauer and Granel Janssen, they might be in good shape, but against, I'll repeat, Ganna, Wright, Uhl, Kung, Jorgensen, Pedersen, they are not taking 3 minutes 30 on this up and down parkour. We have climbs to come. There's a tailwind finish. And so we basically have them pacing full gas. They nearly crash on the descent. They ask, or Ineos, I think, Rose like, Jumbo, are you going to help? Jumbo like, nah, not today. And they didn't because Wout would take green points anyway in the finish, and he took some of the intermediate, and he's going to win green anyway. They've already won stages, and it's going to be from the breakaway. Eventually, Pedersen attacks before he gets attacked. He did this in Gent-Wevelgem, although he wasn't the same. It's different. He
hmm
wasn't the favorite there. He attacked Van Aert and MVDP from that group. He attacks because he knows they will all just try and roll him because he is by far the fastest sprinter. He's with a lot of engines, and it's a brilliant move. It catches Ganna and Kung by surprise, and they can't react. Jorgensen stuck with them. Wright immediately bridges across with Uhl, and so we have the trio going up this climb. And at that point, Benji, I don't know, it's just a great move from Pedersen because the others couldn't come back. The others, Wright and Uhl, were working with him for long enough. The gap goes to 25, and then what can they do? I guess Uhl attacked him a little bit, but Wright, I think he said afterwards he didn't have the legs to attack him on that final little climb.
Yeah, I think so as well. And like this entire scenario, Pedersen attacking early and catching them by surprise, could it be a consequence of him noticing weakness already in Ghana and Kung before? Or do you think that riders in the breakaway can tell if the other breakaway riders won't be able to follow their attack or something?
Um, maybe it depends on. The thing is, his snap is so strong compared to the others. The others take so much longer to wind up, and if he does a 300-meter sprint, he has a 3-4 second gap. So then it's like if they look at each other, now it's 6 seconds, and so Wright immediately had to jump, and so did Uhl, and that's why they got across. I don't know. Maybe they can sense it in the turns. Everyone's doing it, but then maybe someone's conserving. I don't know. They get to the finish. Uhl has attacked a few times. Wright tries one. This is the Vermeersch attack, Benji. The Vermeersch-Roubaix attack, not as bad as Vermeersch, because I think Pedersen wins anyway, but Vermeersch would have won Paris-Roubaix, in my opinion, if he trusted his sprint more, but
Yes.
he didn't. Wright attacks a little bit late. Uhl starts just riding for third. I've got no problem with it. Like, he knows he can't win. There's some UCI points, and it's third in the Tour de France stage he's worked so hard for, but like, what's the point in finessing for nothing and getting caught from the others behind? Pedersen, he leads out them. Pedersen jumps with quite a fair bit to go and gaps right off the wheel, switches off into Uhl in front of Uhl. That denies the draft to Wright, and he wins very, very easily in front of Fred Wright, who was my pick on the podcast yesterday. So I'm in a fine bit of form, actually. He comes second, Uhl third, Kung, Jorgensen, Ganna, fourth, fifth, sixth. Out of the breakaway, extremely strong break, and they played it well today. They won by 5 minutes. Bike Exchange gave up eventually. Pedersen saves Trek's Tour de France, and his Tour de France, he had a pretty rough go of it in the Danish stages. And he wins in hot conditions, Benji. I thought he wasn't supposed to be able to do this.
I think he's able to do it, but I think he's better in the rain still. I think he falls off less than competitors in the rain. Similar to Pogacar, actually, if you think about it.
So yeah, it was a sleepier stage in the peloton. Like you always see, like the heat cooks people's head. Niels Pollitt attacked out of the peloton that was 6 minutes behind, just being paced in by like B&B were going for a top 7 with Mozzato in the sprint, and Pollitt attacks them. I don't know if he gets a bonus for a top 10 in a Tour de France stage. I doubt it. Or if he's auditioning for an Italian wildcard team at the Giro d'Italia next year, but absolutely bizarre. Like, what the fuck is he doing? Sean Kelly was perplexed. And Bora, I mean, Camden's been close, but I wouldn't say they're having the best tour right now. And yeah, so that was weird. And then Wout wins the sprint in front of Seneschal for green jersey points. So he has, let me look, 333 points, and Pogacar's second on 164. But that's pretty much all from this stage, I think, other than for me to say that Cavendish would have won it from the break or from the peloton. Cav would have won. He would
Okay,
have.
I believe you. I believe you.
Heavy roads.
I remember Buru as well.
Quickstep looked in terrible. Like, where's Honore or Baggioli in this break?
Yeah, they tried to get in the first time with a larger breakaway. They got slapped up by Alpecin's
Where's
chasing
Cherney?
group. Cherney's not at this race, right? So
They brought Asgreen because he's Danish, even though his knee didn't work.
that's part of the decision making at Quickstep apparently. But like in hindsight, looking back, Quickstep was like talking big after 2 days on Twitter when they won the time trial and the Fabio Jakobsen stage. Jakobsen stage that every single person in the world predicted, by the way. And Lampard, I'm staying on the fact that he won that time trial solely on the fact that the weather changed.
Yeah,
like
obviously, like of course that's true.
This is not a good tour for them.
I mean, relative to what they usually have, which is
Yeah.
like 3 or last year 5 stages, right? Plus yellow jersey, plus green jersey in previous years. Yeah, it's not as good a tour so far. Maybe they come good. Maybe Jakobsen wins 1921,
Yeah,
but
possible.
We're only halfway through, or just over halfway through. Anyway, tomorrow's stage, Mendy. It's a steep ramp-pass climb.
Monde.
Mendy. He's a defender in the Premier League. Oh no, he's played for PSG. Côte de la Croix-Neuve. It's 3Ks at 10.4%, but it's 7% for the first 500 meters, 7% for the last 400 meters. The middle one, can I do mathematics? I can't. Middle 2 kilometers are like 12%. So that's very, very steep. It's about a 9 to 10 minute climb. And on the parkour here, there's a little descent at the end from what I can see on the profile. Before then, it's like rolling medium mountain all day. Absolutely no team wants to control this stage. No team. This is breakaway, of course. It was when it was used last when Roglic went crazy. Who do you like for it, Benji? Buggy's out with COVID. I would have liked him for it. I think he came top 10 in La Flèche. Who do we like from the break? I see no prospects for GC Group.
I see no prospect for the GC group to win the race, but I do expect Pogacar to try something on the final climb because he's desperate to gain seconds, and if he can gain 10 seconds on Monday, he will try to do so. But I don't expect it to have a big influence on GC either. When it comes to riders that could win this stage, it's a very good question, my friend. We
You
haven't
know if
seen.
Pogacar contested the sprint from the bunch today?
Did he?
Yeah, he was like sprinting. He was behind Dainese, like ahead of Haller and Christoph and Capio.
Why? It makes no
What
sense
is
for
he
him to do
doing?
that. But anyway, regardless of that, I'm still happy he's here because he's the big competitor for Vingegaard, and I hope that he can do shit in the rest of this race. Oh, Magnus Cort in the breakaway. I'm not sure he's going to do that again on a finish like this. It's going to be pretty tough to win for him, even though it's Magnus Cort, so he can do stuff like that. Zimmerman, who can win on a steeper finish like that? A Groschartner? Someone like that? A Schachman?
Kamna's
Bajoli?
better. Kamna's better than them, I think. I think Bora are the big ones. Yes, I agree. Someone from Bora, Kamna, Conrad, Schachman types. Remember, Puy-Marie was when Schachman and Kemna were in the break. Very that's a bit of a harder stage. Puy-Marie is very steep, maybe 10-minute effort. But Danny Martinez was just on a ridiculous level, and he dropped Kamna after Schachman tried to 1-2 him. But there's no Danny Martinez. Well, Danny Martinez is here, but Danny Martinez isn't really here. So
Full side?
yeah, Lefay is out. Do we maybe pick Lefay before the tour?
Yeah, yeah. I think we mentioned him earlier on or something, but the guy was dropping on the first hill today, so really is not in order. So that's why
No.
he's out of the race.
I'm going with Dylan Turns. He's been struggling to get in the
Oh,
breaks. We'll pick the right break. He won Flesh, so this is not, he should probably be the favorite. Or I've just made him the favorite. Dylan Turns, hard to go past him. Plenty of guys who can get in the break to help out with him. Tratnik, Radic, Sanchez. They got to give him a cozy ride in the break, and he's got to do the business. And I really struggle to see anybody that can
Petiol.
match it. Bettiol, this is steep as fuck though. Like
Yeah,
12% for 2Ks. That's harder than the Murder Wee, by the way.
yeah.
Murder Wee is like a 3-4 minute effort. This is maybe it's too long for turns. I don't know. Even like Izagira, not Izagira, Jorgensen, he's just been in the break. He's a bit heavy, like for this sort of finish. You really want to be light for this. Pinot, I think
Is
Pinot's pretty
Lutsenko
good for
too far?
this. Pardon?
Is Lutsenko too close on 11 minutes to go in a break on a stage like this? Or is it not worth it for him?
Um, I don't think the GC teams will want it. It'll be annoying having
Okay.
to chase him.
Yeah.
Yeah, who have you got?
I completely forgot the names I've already said so far. So I'm going to
Wellens,
go
Crow?
with the fact that Marc Soler tried to go in the breakaway
Did
on
he?
this stage in a big group. So he's gonna try tomorrow, go rogue, and he's gonna win the stage for UAE.
From memory, he was in that Puy-Marie break as well, where he got finessed pretty hard or finessed himself back in 2020. In the GC group, I don't think there'll be large differences. It's still only a 10-minute climb. I actually think Vingegaard could drop Pogacar on this climb again.
I don't think
Pogacar's
so.
8 kilos heavier than him. Why not?
I think it's not steep enough. 12% is decent, but this is not Murdehui level, right?
This is steeper than
Murdehui is
Murder Wee.
harder.
No, it's not.
Really?
This is 10 minutes at This is double the length of Murderwee. Murderwee has a steeper pinch, but the overall climb is, I don't think, as hard.
Yeah, but it's a steeper pinch that kills Pogacar every year, I think.
Yeah, but this has, I think, 1 kilometer at 14%.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
let me check. No, sorry, 500 meters at 14.5%. So I assume at
Okay.
some point there's 16% in there for
Yeah.
a little bit. So yeah, I think Jonas should try and put 20 or 15 seconds into him. 20 is too much. He should try and put 10, 15 into him. He can drop him tomorrow. He's lighter. He's a better climber, better pure climber. Steeper the better. Um, but I think what we'll see is a stalemate. Pogacar on, if you look at Armalde, Basque Country, where he beat Pogacar in the downhill sprint, extremely similar finish with a 10-minute steep climb and then a short descent afterwards. It was him, Pogacar, attacking stop, start against Roglic, and then they just went to a sprint, and Gadu and Co came back. Gadu should be good on this finish as well. He'll probably try something. But I don't expect huge gaps. My view is Jonas could drop him if he wanted to commit to, but doesn't have to. He's on 220 on GC, so doesn't really have to. But yeah, Dylan turns to the win. That's all from us for today. Hopefully another good stage tomorrow. Hopefully there is more GC action than we think. We got a Rampas finish, which there's not very many of them in the Vuelta, so tune in for that on the Saturday stage. We'll see you with a recap tomorrow. Ciao.